All right, and welcome to the Beyond Coaching podcast. Today we've got Chris Tutela, coach since '06, gym owner since 2012, and a business mentor to gym owners who want a real company, not a hobby. He opened his gym at 25, worked full-time as a firefighter to keep it alive, and only turned the corner when he invested in mentors and learned sales and marketing for real. Today we're breaking down the plays that still work in the gym biz, how to spot guru BS, and how to price, hire, and systemize so your gym stops running you. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for the intro, guys. I really appreciate it.
100%, man. So what was the exact moment that you realized passion wasn't enough and the business would die if you didn't change?
Probably immediately. Yeah. So I opened the doors in 2012. I think, that first year there was so much to learn. There was, a lot of new things happening. Like I told you, I got hired by the fire department about 2 months after opening my gym. I didn't realize at the time how much of a blessing that was going to be in order to keep my doors open. But that first year, especially after getting things going, those first few months, I think that was when I realized okay, I'm going to really need to learn how to do something different to get people through our doors, since at the time that's when CrossFit was starting to boom, and we had boot camps starting to open up on every corner and whatnot. So it was really that first year, I think, was a huge learning experience for me.
Definitely. And early on, you figured out you couldn't do this alone. What did you invest in mentorship wise, and what changed for you?
You mean like financially?
Yeah, like out of curiosity, like who did you work with and what did you learn? And yeah, what did you invest?
Yeah. So I think towards after a couple of years, right? So I was still kind of resistant to the idea of mentors in the beginning. I think it came to a point probably sometime in like late 2014, early 2015, when I realized okay, I don't want to be a firefighter for the rest of my life. I know I don't want to do that, and I want to go all in on the gym. And so I'm going to have to do something different. And so that's when I started to learn a little bit more about Bedros Keuilian through my friend Jay Ferrugia. And I started following his stuff and starting to watch his YouTube videos and whatnot. And when it came to the time of all right, I know I don't want to be a firefighter forever and I need to do something. But I was also broke because I was putting all of my money from the fire department back into my business. And, after all my bills were paid, I had basically nothing left. I was, using credit cards and whatnot. But I did believe in what Bedros was the information he was putting out there, and some of the stuff that I was applying just from his YouTube videos were working. So he had a course, I think it was called at the time, like the Fitness Business Ignition or something like that. And it was an online program where it was like $100 a month, but it was $100 a month that I didn't fucking have. And I'm like, man, that's going to be a stretch, but I think that this is, the move. I pulled the trigger on that, which, looking back, $100 a month, it's not a huge investment, but at the time it really was for me. It was things were tight. And once my business started to grow, after I started applying everything, because when I tell you guys, I studied every friggin' video. Like I knew this was the last Hail Mary to throw up for me. And so I studied every video and just kind of executed to the T. And once I did, I started seeing my business grow. And we went from, I think at the time I had about 6 clients that I was still working with, to about 35. And I think we were doing maybe $8,000 a month or something like that. So we went from almost zero to $8,000 a month. And it was mostly profit because it was just me at the time. Then I'm like, holy shit, this is actually working. And then that's when I made a bigger investment in working with Bedros one-on-one. And then, for 4 years in a row, we did that. And those investments got heftier and heftier over the years. But that first, initial start was just $100 per month.
Well, what was the biggest, in doing any of this, sort of broad idea? What was the biggest concept you learned that was different than when you set out on the idea of running a business to what actually, what you thought running a business was to what it actually was after you did the mentorship stuff?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I thought running a gym business was hey, I love training people. I'm going to open my doors and I'm going to train people and my business is going to explode. And I learned very quickly, nope, that's not how it works, right? now you're playing with the big boys. So I think my biggest takeaway from that initial experience, guys, was just learning how to market to some degree, and learning sales, like even just like at the lowest level, like, okay, what do I need to do here? Because my sales process was, all right, here's my prices. What do you guys want? And they'll be like, I'll think about it. And I'll be like, all right, I'll see you guys later. Just let me know, shoot me a text later. And then either they would or wouldn't text me. And nine
Still,
times out of 10, they wouldn't.
still waiting
Right?
on some of those texts.
Yeah, exactly. 13 years later. So I think that was the biggest thing, was like, okay, learning how to launch a friggin' Facebook ad, learning how to just, the different polls that we could put in the water in terms of marketing, and then just having like a basic sales process. And just that alone got us, like I said, from 6 to 30 something clients and about 8 or 9 grand a month in revenue. And that was huge for me at the time.
Yeah, 100%. What would you, what's one belief you had about running a gym that you now know was dead wrong?
Well, I guess just first off, you're talking about in the early days, right?
Yeah.
In the early days, I guess it was just like, hey, if I have, the best training and people have a great experience, that's all that's going to matter. And by the way, that does matter, right? Like the quality of the service and the customer experience. Like, of course, I'm not saying that those things don't matter. They absolutely do. But I was only focused on those things. And I think that was my biggest belief, was like, hey, I'm going to be better than everybody else. And that's going to be the big difference maker here. And it was at times, if I had enough people in front of me, but it was so inconsistent that there was just no way that you could grow a business that way. So I think most gym owners do have that mindset too. A lot of the guys that we work with today, they'll come into it and like, I'm so much better than XYZ gym down the street. They're just doing some shitty whatever, but their business is booming, and I have 3 people in here and I can't figure out why. It's like, what's your marketing strategy look like? What's your sales process? They're like, I don't have either of those things. And I'm like, well, there you go. Because if you could combine really great training, a really great customer experience, provide great results for your clients, and how to do the other stuff, the tactical business stuff, how to get in front of more people, well, that's going to be a huge game changer. So once you adapt that mindset and also adapt the processes within those things that need to occur, like there's shit that you need to do that you might not love doing. Eventually we could outsource these things. Lead nurture sucks. We know that, following up with leads, especially cold leads from Facebook, when you're doing all that shit, it sucks in the beginning, because it's like, this guy called me an asshole. This person hung up on me. So it's like, yeah, that stuff sucks, but you got to get a little uncomfortable on the business side of things.
Definitely. When you're coaching a business owner, this is always an interesting one for me, and I have an opinion, but I want to know what you think. So when you're coaching, let's say a new business owner comes in, and a lot of gym owners that I talk to are probably stuck at that 10, 20K a month, usually stuck around that. 10, they're usually solopreneur and they're stuck, they haven't hired, and they're just working like crazy and they're stuck. And then the 20, part-time coaches and maybe not making any money, but still working a ton, and broken systems. What do you cover first? Do you cover, are you trying to build acquisition channels, or are you trying to fix operations?
So we start from scratch, right? So the way we do it, we operate in a 90-day coaching program, essentially, right? So we start from bare bones, because what we learned is that most of these gym owners have broken systems and operations, right? So I guess to answer your question, it is that. But some people, they might have some of that stuff in check, but some people don't. So we start from bare bones. So the first thing we're looking at is like, hey, are you guys still collecting checks from people? Are you still collecting like Venmo payments and friggin' PayPal payments? Because if that's the case and you don't have a payment processor and we're not automatically billing people, like, we got to fix that, right? Yeah. And you'd be shocked. I mean, I know this is what you do as well, but there's so many people that are still like chasing people. Like, this guy owes me $1,000. This guy owes me 500. It's like, you can't be a check collector and just chasing people for payments. So like little things like that, like a payment processor, a CRM, do you have an email list? Like, we get a lot of the basic stuff in check, because otherwise, if you just go pure acquisition system in the beginning, you're just kind of like, it's like a house of cards. Like, it's going to come tumbling down at some point. So build the foundation first, and then let's start getting the leads coming in the process, because otherwise you're just going to be more overwhelmed.
Yeah, my favorite response is like, oh, well, I do Venmo because I'm trying to avoid like a 3% processing fee from a payment processor.
Exactly.
I'm like, and then I try to explain to people, like, the amount of like dollars you're leaving on the table is so much more than your 3% processing, and you can pass that processing fee on to the client. I'm just like blown away.
Right.
And I'm sure you see a ton of that too.
It's
all
like
the time.
Putting down $20 bills to pick up quarters.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And people get stuck in that mindset, as you guys know. But, once we fix that stuff for them and we should, like, our guys, get over this. Hey, worst case scenario, try it for the next 90 days. And if you don't see a shift in your business, go back to the old way. But at least try it and kind of accept the fact that you're going to have to pay 3% on freaking credit card payments.
Definitely. What would you, so we talked a little bit about this just now with like, what do you fix first? But so in your experience, if a coach is or a gym owner is stuck at that, let's just call it that 20K mark. Let's say operations are okay. They're using a Zen planner or a MindBody, but they seem to be stuck. And usually, let's say it's acquisition. What's the first thing you teach them?
On the acquisition side? So first thing that we look at is like, what is your marketing system? And even if a lot of times if people are doing 15, 20K, like a lot of times they still don't even really have an acquisition system. They might just have a bigger following on social media, or maybe they're good at, getting people through organic platforms or whatever. But what we look at is this. We explain our online, offline, and internal marketing strategies. So the first thing that we look at are the online organic, because we could split that into two buckets, right? So when we take online, online, we could split that into organic and paid. Right. Mm-hmm. So what we help them do first, especially like it depends on their budget and whatnot, but we like to look at the organic online strategies first, so they don't have to spend any money that they might not have on Facebook ads just yet. So we look at those organic online strategies, and that's just going to be like making sure that Google is optimized, making sure that you have a website where the funnel actually makes sense and it's just not like a million different pages that's going to confuse people. Like, let's get people to opt in right away. Like, let's create less resistance, on your Facebook, and let's try to get as many Google reviews as possible to help you kind of move up the ranks in Google a little bit. And then on the posting side of things, like, what are you doing? What's your Instagram strategy? What's your Facebook strategy? Are you just trying to impress other coaches or other people by showing how smart you are? Or are you speaking the language of your actual avatar? Because your avatar, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if that's who you're working with, because it's mostly people that are trying to build general population clientele. Mr. and Mrs. Jones don't give a damn if you're talking about all this sciencey stuff. Like, it's going to go right over their head. They're not going to pay attention to what you're saying. Are you trying to solve the problem that they're facing? Give them stuff, put content out there that's going to speak to them, that will actually help them solve their biggest problems. Because if you're not doing that, your shit is not going to resonate with them, and now you're leaving customers on the table. We want to have a posting strategy that speaks to them, and then also an email list. Are we nurturing an email list? Are you putting out good information, again, that solves the problems of your potential customers? Are we spending time building that email list? That's some of the stuff organically that we like to tackle first, and then we could start getting into running paid ads. If you want to go there first, like, that's going to give you the highest volume. But the offline and the internal strategies, so internal is different ways to generate referrals, and then offline is like becoming the mayor of your town, right? Get to know other local business owners, get to know, the local organizations, the fire department, the police department, the first aid squad. Go down to town hall, introduce yourself, like, become the mayor and the go-to guy in your town. So those are some of the different avenues, and that's kind of like the I don't know if it's the exact step-by-step process that you're looking for, but essentially that's kind of what we like to tackle first.
Do you find that a lot of gym owners, and maybe like newer gym owners, especially in like our space where they're more performance oriented, really miss the mark on understanding who their avatar is? Like what you hit on with the sciencey stuff. Like, I totally see that in a lot of spaces where it's kind of almost like the men and women don't actually, like, they don't know what the other one's thinking or talking about. So you're, as a coach, saying, hey, here's the best way to do this. And those people are looking for, I want a 45-minute long workout that makes me stronger. And like, there's just no two different languages. You see that's a problem, like a pretty big problem?
100%. Yeah. And I think a good exercise, this is something we help our guys with too, is sit down and list out like your ideal avatar.
Yeah.
Like, who is it that you are going to serve? What are their big problems and pain points? Write those out. You should have a list. Understand exactly what it is that keeps them up at night? What are their big problems? What are their big issues? And then also speak to the potential solutions for those problems. So list those out too. So let's just use general population as an example. Let's say somebody says, time is their biggest obstacle, right? You're going to hear that a lot with Gen Pop clients. Okay, so if time is the big obstacle, if you're like, hey, come train with us 7 days a week, our workouts are 2 hours long, you're probably not solving their problem, right? But if you're like, hey, you train with us 3 days per week, each training session is 60 minutes. Okay, well now that kind of solves the time problem when it comes to training. Let's speak to nutrition. Hey, if you're busy, you're on the go, here are XYZ things that you could bring with you to make eating on the run easier. Or here's a couple of meals that takes you 15 minutes or less to prepare. So now we're tackling that busy schedule, that time issue on both the training side of things and the nutrition side of things. And you can put that in your content. You can make a ton of different pieces of content around both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think gym owners start and they sort of think like, oh, okay, I'm just going to market to everyone. And we know that marketing to everyone means marketing to no one. And so it's so important that we understand who we're speaking to. And then what's cool is over time, what I always tell people is, give me your best 3 people, the people who are the most dedicated. They're always giving you referrals. They love what you do. And if you had 100 or 300 of those people, you'd be crushing it. And then from there, we can create these avatars and then create the story and the problem that we solved. And then what I find too, I deal with this because I'm more of a niche gym with powerlifting. Again, we are like Gen Poppy in powerlifting. So we get a lot of beginners and we help them get strong. And so where I've had to teach my coaches and like my marketing team, it's like, we have to highlight, like we did some testimonial stuff last night. And one of the clients we highlighted, her name's Anna. Anna started training with us in 2023. And now she just competed at USAPL regionals. She's very, very strong now, competing at a high level. But she saw our gym. She told me this. She saw our gym online in 2021 and said, oh, I'm not strong enough to go there. And I found this out later. And then she ended up signing up in 2023 and has been an amazing member since.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to capture Anna's story, not just, oh, I competed at a high level, I'm super strong. No. Who was she before she walked in the door? That's the person we're targeting, not what she is now. And all my coaches always want to coach like the high level, super strong person. I'm like, there's just not enough of them to create a real business around. We can create those people, but we're not, that's not who we attract from the get-go.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's such an important point. Like, tell the stories of where they were before they worked with you. And what was that? Where are they now? And then also, what has the process been like for them? Like what did it look like the first month or the first day they walked in? Like, let them tell that story, because if somebody else like them hears that from their mouth, it's very different than me telling you how good our service is, So that's a great point.
Building a Story Brand, great book. I'm sure you've read it.
Yep.
Huge on this. Definitely recommend. One of the things you and I talked about, and you've been in the game for a long time, and we chatted about this for a while when we chatted previously, was about front end offers and how Facebook ads have changed, front end offers have changed. It used to be the Hermosi-esque 6-week challenge, just crushed it on Facebook, and now things have changed. So what have you seen change and what's still working today?
As far as the offer itself?
Yeah.
So listen, I think it just depends on the market, right? Because I think that the whole 6-week challenge play, I think it does still work. Like, we still run, 6-week front end offers. But I think that, one of the biggest things that we've seen is if you've been running a 6-week, and let's just say a couple of years ago, it absolutely crushed for you. And maybe over the last year, it started to slow down a little bit. Maybe you could just simply change your offer by changing the duration or changing the name of your 6-week program. And now, instead of a 6-week shred, let's just say, maybe now it's a 28-day lean for Halloween or whatever, right? But you could just kind of change and Hormozi used to talk about this all the time too, just change the wrapping paper on the offer. Because if you've just been running it over and over and over and over and over again, of course, it's going to fatigue, right? Those ads will fatigue, and you need to change it up a little bit. So that could be, again, like the duration, I think, is one of the big things. Run a 28-day, run a 6-week, run a 90-day, run an 8-week, cycle through those things, change the name, and see what hits. When you get a winner, you could either A, push it and just dry it out like you did with your 6-week, as long as it's still working and bringing in sales, or cycle through those things. 1 month you run a 90-day, 1 month you run a 6-week, 1 month you run a 28-day, and you make sure that your price is aligned with the duration, of course, so that would change. But everything else should remain the same, like your sales process, the nurture process. None of that shit should change. So this way you could have systems that are exactly the same. The only thing that's changing is the duration and the price point in
Yeah.
reality.
I think like exactly like a lot of people are always trying to, oh, we need our offer needs to be now they get this free 12-week diet plan and let's add this bell and whistle. And they're thinking bells and whistles
Yeah.
when in reality, the product can remain the same. It's just how we talk about the product. And the same goes for sales. Like our vehicle of fitness is powerlifting. And if I have someone that walks in and they tell us like, yeah, I actually have been working out for 2 years, I've been lifting at 24-hour fitness and I want to compete in powerlifting, I'm going to speak about powerlifting differently than the female that walks in and says, I want to lose weight and feel strong. I'm not going to talk to them the same thing. It's the same product. The coaching's going to be very similar, but I have to speak about it differently and mirror the prospect and where they're at. And I think that's a huge mistake a lot of coaches make.
Yeah, you got to speak their language, right? So if I have like, let's just say, I don't know, we get Mrs. Jones in there and she's 42 and she has 3 kids and she wants to lose 20 pounds and she's saying to you like, hey, I want to get, a little bit tighter. I want to quote unquote tone up, right? And immediately I think the purist will say like, well, there's no such thing as tone, Mrs. Jones. Like what you're actually doing is losing body fat and building muscle. But if you start doing that, you're just taking her out of the mindset of the thing that she wants. You got to speak her language. So if she says tone, just fucking say tone. You could teach her you could teach her what the truth is later when it comes to like what's actually happening physically. But I think people get kind of hung up on that. Or if I'm talking to that same prospect and I'm like, yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you jacked. We're going to get you super strong. And we start speaking using words that are not going to connect with her or resonate with her. I don't want to get jacked. I don't want to get super strong. She might learn what those words mean later on. And she might actually learn, okay, like, yes, I do need to get stronger. I want to get stronger. I'm actually following a progressive program. This is very different than the boot camp that I used to do. She'll see that once she's actually in your training program. But during a sales conversation, you don't want to go down that road because you're going to kill the sale.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And what are your thoughts on the free intro offer versus the paid offer on the front end?
I don't do free intro offers. I know that some gyms use them and they like them. What I've always found, and this is just from my experience, is that whenever we ran something free, and we've never run like a free intro offer using paid ads. Anything free that we've ever done might have been like a referral play or some type of like, we do a Toys for Tots drive every year. And so it's like, if you donate a toy, you get 2 weeks free. So we still do that. But whenever we do, even if you get a high volume of people, they don't have any skin in the game. So there's a good chance that a lot of those people are not going to even finish their trial. You might get some people that are blown away and they love what you do. And it's such a high level of service that they're like, wow. And you should still, again, pour into the people, even if they're free. But I just, I think there's a time and a place to do some type of free, maybe referral play or something like that. But as far as running paid ads, I don't like it because you're not going to get the return on your ad spend. Right now because you should profit off of your ad spend. At the worst case scenario, you should break even. But if you're losing money on the front end and you're doing that consistently, now that's not really an acquisition strategy that I like, because why would you want to start in the red, when you could profit off the front end?
Yeah, 100%. When it comes to ad spend too, I'm curious as to like what you think about what is the right amount of like marketing spend. Is it a percentage of gross revenue for a mature business? Is it a different amount if you're starting up? And also like as far as, and I'm sure you've gone through it. I've gone through so many ad agencies and ad people and offshore people and consultants over the years. And it's always never good enough. Actually, I think there's a metric where CMOs of companies have the highest churn rate just because everyone blames the marketing guy for lack of business performance. And it's so much more than that, and landscapes change. But I'm curious your take on this.
Yeah. So what was the original question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. I rambled a little bit there. Really, like what is the target? What should a gym owner's target ad spend be? Is it a percentage of revenue? How should someone set their budget for ad spend and even marketing as a whole?
Yeah. So what we teach is, to sell a front end program that's going to be anywhere from $400, $500, $600, maybe even more if you're doing like a 90-day, like a really true high level nutrition coaching on top of training. That could be a couple $1,000, right? So when you're doing that, I like to first start our ad campaign at about $50 per day, because if you're running ads and you're spending $50 a day and you're selling a $500, $600, $900 thing, then you don't really have to worry about a marketing budget, because you should be profitable. So even if you're running ads for, let's just say, 5 days, and you're running that at $50, all right, so you spent $250, but even if you get one sale at 600, we're still profitable, right? So what I like to do is start at $50 a day. And again, it's going to depend on your market, because some markets are more competitive. But we have clients, some of them are in friggin' Oklahoma, Arkansas. Their cost per lead's like $8. For us here in Jersey, I don't know about you guys, but $8 a lead is, those days are long gone. They have been for a while. So yeah, we like to start at $50 a day and then scale up. I think the biggest problem or mistake that a lot of gym owners will make is that their campaign will be super profitable and they don't put the money back into the budget. So for example, if you're starting at $50 a day, let's just say the first week, let's say it's a slower week, you get 2 sales, and let's just call it $600 a sale. So we spent $250, but we made $1,200. So take the additional money that you just made, take that profit, put it back into the campaign. Now you don't have to put the whole thing back, but instead of keeping the ads at 50 a day, let's scale it to 75 a day. Let's scale it to 100 a day. As long as your campaign is profitable and you're making sales and we're getting leads coming through, the ad campaign is working, put more money back into the budget. I like to look at that more, Zach, than just like having like a set or fixed budget, because we know that we could be profitable on the front end as long as, you have a proper lead nurture system and a proper sales system in place.
Absolutely. The other thing too, and you just hit it, I firmly believe that in any business, especially when sales and marketing is in play, if you find something that works, just do more of that, because there's probably going to be a moment where it stops working. So you might as well just turn on the faucet as high as possible while it's working, because there'll come a day where the algorithm changes or the way buyer behavior changes or the other guys pop up on the corner where things change. And so my advice for sure is, if you find an ad that works or a way to market or sell that works, just do so much of that until it stops, because it will. I mean, things are inevitable. Things change. It changes, right?
For sure. And just to add to that too, because I just thought of this, like I think a big mistake that people will make is like, okay, let's say we have a new 6-week challenge that's kicking off. Let's just call it October 15th, right? And we just started our campaign. We started at $50 a day, and we're putting money into it. Leads are maybe the ad is performing okay. It's not great. I think people get super caught up in just like trying to fix the ads, which, by the way, you should, but people forget about the other poles that you need to keep in the water, right? We kind of just forget about the organic stuff that I talked about earlier. They forget about the offline stuff. They forget about the internal stuff, and they're just solely depending on the Facebook ads. It's like, if you have a campaign that's going to be running for 3 weeks, and we know that we're trying to sell this thing out. Let's say you're taking on 15 people for it, and it's starting on October 15th. Well, from the moment your campaign begins on Facebook, you should be promoting the fuck out of this thing with using these different avenues as well, right? So make sure that you're posting about this and letting people know on your social media. Make sure that you're going around to different local businesses and saying, hey guys, like October 15th, we have this program kicking off. Since you're a local, business owner in town, I would love to hook you up for free. And if you guys, as a thank you, if you could spread the word and let your clients or customers know, here's a flyer. They could just scan this QR code. They could jump in on it too, and we'll give them a 10% discount if they scan this, QR code, whatever. Don't forget about the other strategies. Don't just rely on one. And I think, I'm speaking to myself as well, because when an ad campaign is really crushing, I think it's easy to get comfortable and just get really dependent on those ads. Like, oh man, our ads are crushing. I don't need to do any of this other shit. And you forget about it. And then when those ads slow down, it's like, what do I do? Do I fire my friggin' marketing guy? Do I put more money into the campaign? Are we changing the creatives? Maybe you are, But don't forget about these other ways to promote your business as well. You have to have everything working for you at once.
Yeah. One of the things that you've done well with the gym over the years is team. Take me through your cadence for leadership, team development, and what the team looks like today.
It wasn't always that way, man. It's a work in progress. I'll tell you that. We're in a really good place now. But I think, Zach, like one of the hardest, once you figure out the acquisition problem that most gym owners face, right? The money problem. Once you figure that out and you're growing and you're scaling, then it's like, okay, we solve that bleeding neck issue because that's everybody's biggest problem in the beginning. Once we figured that out, your team that's going to be where the biggest problems in your business start to pop up, right? How do I manage them better? Who's underperforming? Like that just becomes a whole nother nightmare on trying to figure that stuff out. So I've spent a lot of time on trying to figure out, okay, what's the best communication pulse? What's the best way to hire? When do I fire? Like all these things we've dealt with over and over again for the last, 13 years. So I guess my biggest piece of advice, like if I'm looking at how to lead better, how to build a better team, it's first off, you need to have a vision and a mission for your company. What's the vision? Like where is the company going in the next 5 years? What is it that you're trying to build? And then what's the mission? Like what is the impact that your company is making? Okay. Once we have the vision and the mission, we need to have core values. If you don't have those things, well, your team, when you hire them, they're not going to know where you're going and where the company's headed. They're not going to understand the impact that their work is truly making. And they're not going to understand the values of the company. So they may or may not be aligned. And if you don't know them as an owner, you might be hiring people that are completely misaligned with the values of the company. Having those core values will help you with your hiring process. They'll help you with your firing process and everything in between. So it's really important to have those, not only for your team, but also for all of your members too. So the vision, the mission, the core values, let's get those in place. Then when it comes to hiring, let's not just be like, hey, does anybody want a job? Because I've done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a careful hiring process, right? And we live by hire slow, fire fast, right? Don't keep the wrong people on your team for too long, and don't just rush people onto your team because you need to fill a spot. Take your time, interview them, have multiple interviews. We always like to give a project and see how this candidate is going to actually perform. So if I'm hiring for even, let's just say, an admin, okay? I'm hiring for an admin. You know this as well as I do. Everybody is on their best behavior during an interview. They're going to kiss your ass. They're going to smile if they're well prepared. They're going to answer the question. They're going to say shit that they know you want to hear. But let's actually see how you perform. If I give you a project and I pay you to do it as part of the interview, and I say, hey, you have 72 hours to complete this project. Well, now I'm actually going to see how you work. Are you going to do some half-assed bullshit effort? Or is this going to actually be something that's like, wow, they went above and beyond? That's going to give me a little bit more clarity. And then after that, whoever I decide to hire based on the interviews and based on that project, well, now I like to go into a probationary phase. I don't like to just hire them and just say like, okay, you're hired. And then again, a lot of times there's no communication during those early days. There's really no thorough training process. So I like to have a 90-day probationary phase. And every week for those 90 days, I have a built out training process for each position. So we want everybody understanding, again, everything I just mentioned, the mission, the vision, the core values. So we give them material to study each week. We teach them how our business actually functions. So we teach them about, how we generate leads, how we nurture leads. We teach them the sales process. We teach them fulfillment. Not every position needs to understand every area of our business.
Yeah.
So depending on who we're hiring, we give them different study material based on their specific role, right? If I'm hiring a new coach, they don't necessarily need to learn how to nurture leads, right? So I hope that makes sense. So we walk them through that. We have a thorough training process. And then only after they go through that 90-day probationary phase where they're going to have tests, they're going to have multiple check-ins per week, They're going to have study material and all that stuff. And I could actually see how they operate, how they perform, and how seriously they're taking this. Then we will hire them after that probationary phase, like officially. On top of that, I know this is long-winded, but just,
It's good. It's good stuff.
it's a complex answer. On top of that, a consistent and thorough communication pulse. Gym owners do not do this enough, right? They don't have meetings in place. It's kind of like, oh, well, if they could make it, it's like, no. It's got to be, hey, these are the times that we're having meetings. If you have a leadership team, depending on how big your team is, if you have a leadership team, our level 10 meeting is every week on this day, on this time. If you're having coaches meetings, it's this time of the week and this day of the week. We have a weekly team huddle, which is like a quick 10 to 15 minute meeting on Zoom with the entire team. If you don't have that communication pulse and you're just leaving things up to chance, like, of course, your team is not going to perform at the level that you expect them to, because you can't just expect them to know things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I really struggled with in the beginning. So we could go on and on about this for a while, but I'll cut it there. I think as if people are listening to this and they're just trying to get started with building a team, those are the starting points. And then you could build off of it from there.
Yeah. And I think it ties into another good question, which I talk to a lot of gym owners, and they either feel like, oh, well, I don't have enough money to hire, or I can't. What's your checklist for showing a gym owner that, like, no, it is time to hire it? What do you hire for? Do you want the gym owner to keep coaching more and hire admin help, or should they pull out and get more on the biz side and have someone plug into coaching?
So that's a great question, because I think that it depends. If I'm working with you and you're like, dude, I love coaching. This is what I love to do. I don't ever want to stop doing that. I don't want to be the guy that says, dude, you can't coach because you're going to be the bottleneck of your business and you're going to limit yourself, because that might be true. And I think it's important to give them some awareness on, like, hey, look, you could limit yourself here and here if you're just coaching from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. So what does your ideal business look like? If you don't want to stop coaching, I'm not going to tell you to stop coaching, because I don't think you should. I think that could make you hate your own business. If it's like, hey, I stopped doing the thing that I truly love to do, and now I'm just doing everything that I hate, managing people, I'm doing sales, and I'm just doing everything I hate, and I'm not even doing the thing I love anymore. I might as well run a fucking Dunkin' Donuts. So I don't want to be the guy that tells you to do that. So I will, again, give some awareness and clarity around that, and also say, like, hey, look, what is your ideal schedule look like? Because you probably don't want to coach people from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. if you have kids and a wife and a family and all that stuff, right? So, okay, how many hours per week do you want to be on the floor coaching? Let's create that, and then we could work off of that from there, right? So let's have that schedule in place first. Now, if that's the case, we know that we are going to need help with some of these other things, right? I would say an admin should be your first hire. Okay. If you need to come off the floor and you need a second coach, fantastic. But if again, it's going to depend on the person. I think that your first hire is either going to be A, an admin, or B, a coach, just depending on your situation, because you are going to need to free up your time. Again, it really just depends on the situation, but I think admin is probably the thing that makes the most sense, just because, like, do you as the owner need to be the person that is rectifying failed payments, putting memberships on hold, sending member agreements? Like, the answer is no. And I think that's the shit we should probably get off your plate sooner than even coaching, because that alone is going to free up some of your time. Again, just know that the less time that you have available to do the things that actually grow your business, it will limit you. And I think that even if you're still coaching, in the beginning, you should be doing the lead nurture and the sales until you actually learn the systems, because sales should be the last thing that you outsource, because that's the lifeline of your business. So again, I know that was a long-winded answer. I think the short answer of it is it depends. And did I answer everything there? I feel like there was another part of that question.
No, it was which one? When do you decide it's time to hire? I guess would be the other part of that. So, is there a margin in profit? Is there, what does that look like?
I don't know if there's a margin in profit. Like, that's not something that I typically look at. I like to work with the person as an individual and really hear what they're saying. And if they're like, hey, my bottleneck right now that's limiting for my growth is my time. I'm on the floor all day, every day. And then in between, I'm doing all the admin work and all that stuff. Understanding that when you hire somebody, it's not just an expense, there should be a return on your investment, right? So if I'm hiring somebody, let's just say I hire a coach. Well, that doesn't mean now I go home and I fucking play Nintendo all day. That means with my new free time, it means I'm
Idiots.
focused on the tasks that are going to grow my business. So now if I freed up, let's just say 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, well, that's a chunk of time now that I'm going to be focused on building and growing my business. So I should see a return on my investment in a new coach or in a new admin. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's a thing that I remember hearing kind of recently. It was in tech, but the idea about like talking like a founder and basically even in this space, like a gym owner, right? It's like the reason to hire somebody is because you gain leverage from them. And the only leverage you're going to gain from somebody is if they can do the job better than you can. And in gym, it's a little different because you have time constraints as well, right? But the reality is to say like, how much do you feel that they're a founding gym member, person who starts a gym, needs to have competency in all areas of the gym, like, outsourcing sales immediately would be a problem, or outsourcing admin would be a problem if they don't even understand, how to keep books or these kind of things. But the quicker you get to something like you outsource an admin and suddenly you leverage that time, because now, like you're saying, hey, they don't even have to deal with that and it's going to be done. It's fine. It's a simple task. That's kind of a yes or no thing. How do you feel like, how do you, I guess, kind of come up with the equation, or like to be able to assign value to some of that stuff that's not as obvious, right? Like a coach is easy. You can quantify how many hours they're working, but like somebody like a marketing or a salesperson, like how do you find that value and understand that leverage with them without being able to sort of quantify it? Or can you quantify anybody, I guess?
I don't know. I think that's a really good question. I think that what's the way that I like to do stuff like this and the way I like to quantify it, just to, or even justify it, I should say, Max. And I don't know if this is going to answer your question or not, but I think what you should do as an owner, and maybe even do this quarterly, is list out all the tasks that you're currently doing in your business, right? Everything that you do for, let's say, the last 30 days, like try to think of every little minute detail, every little thing that you did, like including I put up an Instagram post, or I launched a campaign, or I coached clients from this time to this time, right? And then you should list out, is this something that the owner must do? Is this something you, as the owner, as the CEO, should you be doing that specific task? Or is that something a coach could or should do, or an admin could or should do, or some type of management could or should do? And you write that out next to the task. And all the things that are like really low level stuff that I could hire a VA for, or an admin, I think those are the things that I want to cross off my list, because I'm quantifying it by the amount of hours that's giving me back in my life and in my business. So I could
Right.
either spend more time with my family with that time, or I could spend more time growing and building my business with that time that I just bought myself back. So I don't know if that necessarily answers your question, but I think that's like an easy exercise for people to do that are listening to this, where they could have like an actionable takeaway of like, okay, when should I hire? If I'm working 60 hours a week, it's probably time to get somebody to help you out in some capacity. And just look at those tasks that you could simply outsource that don't necessarily need to be you. And also, I think you said that, you should get somebody that's better than you in those areas. I think that's friggin' fantastic if you could find that person. I don't think many gym owners that have a tight budget could find that person that's going to be better than them, especially right away. Maybe later when you have a little bit more that you could invest, like if you could pay somebody a 6-figure salary, yeah, you could probably find that person. But if you're a true expert as a coach, let's just say, and you're like, this is who you are, it's what you do, you're a really high level coach, it's going to be fucking hard to find somebody that's better than you. But could we find somebody that has really good qualities that you're looking for? Can you find somebody that is aligned with your core values, who is willing to learn, willing to grow, and willing to just kind of work up the ranks, just like you did to get where you are? They might not be better than you today, but if they stick with you for the next 5 years, 10 years, could they be just as good or not better than you in time if you really pour into that person? And then as they grow with you, you could pay them more, right? And you could pay them what they're worth. That's always how I have done it. And that's, I think the last couple of years, one of my team members really comes to mind, where it's like, we've been really building him up, pouring into him. And now he's even taking on some more responsibilities. Like he's went from intern to coach to facility leader, where he's managing our other coaches. And now he's actually getting his feet wet a little bit with sales as well, right? We're giving him a little taste of that so he can make a little bit more money, et cetera. So I think in this space, unless you have the financial backing, or you have money that you could invest in people, a lot of money that you can invest in people, where it's like, hey, I could pay an integrator, 6 figures a year to come in and really do like high level management. Like that might be a tough ask for some people that are making, $5,000 a month right now. But in time, maybe we could work towards that. So did that answer your question at all, or was I all over the place?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is like there are people that exist that love the shit that you don't like doing.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think a common mistake a lot of gym owners make is they hire people that are like them. Oh, dude, like your buddies. Like honestly, my GM and I even joke about it. We're too similar, and he's done an extraordinarily good job of getting more organized and he's actually our integrator, and he's done a lot of work with EOS and stuff. And so he's worked those muscles, but he's innately not good at those things. And I've joked with him, I'm like, if you ever take over and I'm not in the picture, you should hire someone that's not like you to be your manager or have an admin or something like that. Because I think, it's an easy mistake to make. You bring up, you got another coach under you, you guys are buddies, you hit it off because you're similar, and we usually like to hang out with people we're like. And the best hires you can probably make is the person who's like the opposite, like a lot of different ways, but they fill your gaps. Kind of like a good marriage. I mean, my wife and I are very, very different people, but it works so very well. And so I think that's huge. For the last piece here, Chris, I wanted to dive in a little bit to the gym growth gurus that are out there. I often see these marketing agencies, brand themselves as business coaches or business consultants, et cetera. And I just see a bunch of, bullshit. They're like, yeah, I get 100 members in your door tomorrow. What are you seeing out there? What are the red flags? Because I still see gym owners falling for these things. How can we avoid this type of stuff?
Man, I see the same stuff that you see. My newsfeed is flooded with the same shit, right? Every day you might log onto Instagram. It's like, hey, you want 150 clients by next week? And we know it's just outrageous bullshit. And I think the best thing that you can do is educate yourself. If you're a gym owner and you're listening to this right now and you're ready to make an investment because you're just kind of hitting a ceiling and you want to get to the next level, don't just jump on the first ad that you see, or even if it's an ad that you've seen multiple times, because they might have really good marketing. They might be really making a good promise. But if you don't know anything about the company, I would really consider doing your research before making an investment. I would want to know, hey, like, who have they worked with? And could I reach out to that person to really understand and see kind of like, hey, what do they do for you? How do they help you out? I think and also like, what's the content that they're putting out? Are you just seeing an ad? And if you go to the page, it's like there's one post up and all they're doing is running an ad, or are they actually giving you information? If you go to the company's website, like learn how long have they been around, like just basic research on a company, but also understanding the difference between a coach and a marketing agency. Because there's a lot of those companies, as you mentioned, like they might position themselves as business coaches or business consulting, but all they're going to do is run your ads, right? And maybe they give you a go high level account or something like that, and they're just running your ad campaign, but you don't know how to do all the other things within your business. Back to what I mentioned in the beginning of this, you kind of just have a house of cards now that's going to come tumbling down. You don't have a foundation. We don't have these other things in place. So do your research, try to really understand the company, what they're going to do. When you're on a sales meeting with them, interview them as well. Like they're going to frame the call and they're going to set everything up so like they limit your questions, but when they're done with their spiel, ask them questions. Like, what is it exactly that, if you don't understand it, ask them, like, what is it exactly that you guys are going to do? Because here is what I feel like I need. Do you guys do this? They might, if they're scumbags and they lie to you and they say, yeah, we're going to do that, and you don't do that, like, then that's a whole nother problem. But you should really ask the questions that you want answered so you could truly understand what you're going to get with that company. And I think it's the same thing if it's a true business coach, like somebody that's going to coach you on these things. Do they own a gym? Did they ever own a gym? Like, how long did they run their gym for? Was it a successful gym? Like, I would want to know their track record there too, because a lot of times you have these people that they're like, I was a gym owner. It's like they were a gym owner that never made any profit. They closed their gym, or they say they sold it, but they basically just gave it to somebody for free because they didn't want it anymore. And now they're a business coach. I wouldn't want to work with somebody like that, right? I want to work with somebody that's like, hey, I built a successful, profitable gym. If they made an exit, great, right? And they made some money off it, but I would want to know the backstory. So how long have they been in the game? What have they done? Who have they helped? How long did they own and operate their gym? Like, these are questions that need to be answered, because there are so many charlatans out there these days. Everybody's a friggin' expert, self-proclaimed expert. So you just got to ask the right questions, do your homework. Don't get sucked into all the garbage that's out there. And by the way, that goes for fitness coaches too. Every friggin', 19-year-old kid with a six-pack is a coach these days. And they're like, yeah, I train guys over 40. It's like, you're friggin' 19 years old. You never trained anybody. You got a six-pack because you're friggin' 19 years old, but you're training guys that just came off of shoulder surgery and shit. It just makes no sense. So it's like, do your homework no matter who you're working with these days.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, man, we really appreciate your time today. I think this episode was jam-packed with so much value. I'm super excited to put it out, man.
Thank you, man. And again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time and having me on. So thank you so much.
Percent.